I walked the city streets like a man on a mission to nowhere. The wind was a razor cutting through my expensive wool coat, but I didn't care. To me, the cold felt honest. I was heading back to an empty apartment where the silence was louder than the traffic outside. I passed the usual landmarks, the closed-down bakery, the glowing neon of the pharmacy, but everything looked different through the lens of my grief. I had become a cynic, convinced that everyone was out for themselves. I was ready to go home and lock the world out for good. But as I turned the corner onto 4th and Main, the air changed. The smell of exhaust and wet pavement hit me, and then I saw the flashes. Blue and red strobes reflecting off the falling snow. My heart didn't race, it just sank. Another tragedy in a city full of them, or so I thought. An older boy, maybe 10 or 11, stood defiantly against the wind. He wore a dark tan winter coat that was clearly a hand-me-down, the fur-lined hood dusted with a thick layer of white snow. He wasn't looking for help. He was looking for a way to stay upright. In his arms, he cradled a much younger child, a toddler who was fast asleep against his shoulder. The little one was bundled in a puffy blue jacket, his small face tucked away from the bite of the storm. But it was what the toddler was holding that broke my heart. A bright green plastic T-Rex, held so tightly it was like a lifeline. The older boy didn't move as the police lights flashed over him. He just stood his ground over the rising steam of the grate, a miniature soldier guarding his only treasure in the world. Martha had spent days on that scarf. Yellow is the color of a second chance, she'd said. I had kept it in my pocket like a lucky charm, though I never wore it. Looking at those boys, I realized I was standing at a crossroads Martha had described 1,000 times. I could choose the rule, which was to mind my own business, or I could choose the kindness. The boy's eyes met mine. He didn't look like a victim, he looked like a protector. He was suspicious, his body tensed to run if I got too close. The snow was falling harder now, accumulating on his knit beanie. I realized that if I walked away, I was agreeing with the cold. I was saying the world is a place where children should be left to shiver. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the yellow yarn. "I'm not going to hurt you," I said, my voice sounding foreign in the quiet of the snow. I held the scarf out at arm's length. The boy didn't move, but his gaze dropped to the bright yellow fabric. I told him about Martha. I told him it was a magic scarf that kept the sadness away. For a second, I saw the mask of the adult he was trying to be slip. He was just a kid whose hands were probably numb. He looked at the police car, then back at me. Slowly, he reached out one hand, never letting go of his brother with the other. He took the scarf. He didn't put it on himself. He carefully wrapped it around the toddler, tucking it under the boy's chin. It was the most selfless thing I'd ever seen. "I'm hungry," I lied, "and I hate eating alone. Would you fellas join me? My treat." The boy hesitated, looking at the diner's warm yellow windows. He looked at his brother, then finally nodded. We walked together, the old man and the two boys, a strange parade through the slush. Inside, the diner smelled of grease and coffee, the scent of safety. I sat them in the back booth. The older boy, Leo, finally let his guard down when the heat hit his face. He placed his brother on the vinyl seat, and the toddler finally woke up, blinking at the bright lights. The first thing the little guy did was check for his dinosaur. When he saw the T-Rex was safe, he looked at the yellow scarf around his neck and smiled. It was the first bit of warmth I'd felt in months. Their radiator had burst that afternoon, turning their small apartment into a walk-in freezer. Their mom told them to go to the community center, but it was closed for repairs. Leo, not wanting to worry his mom at the hospital, decided they'd wait it out at the library, but it had closed early due to the storm. He had been walking for hours, carrying his brother, searching for a warm place that wouldn't kick them out. He chose the steam grate because he remembered seeing a man do it in a movie. He was 11, carrying a 3-year-old through a blizzard, and he was apologizing to me for being a bother. I realized then that Leo had more character in his pinky finger than most of the board members I'd worked with. She collapsed into the booth, pulling both boys into her arms so tightly they disappeared. She was crying, Leo was finally crying, and even the toddler started to wail, though he didn't know why. I sat at the counter nursing a cold coffee watching the scene. She eventually looked over at me, her eyes red and searching. I expected her to be angry or perhaps embarrassed. Instead, she just mouthed the words, "Thank you." I didn't need a medal. I didn't need a parade. Seeing that family whole again was the first time I felt like I had actually accomplished something meaningful since Martha died. I told her I'd already called a plumber I knew, a guy who owed me a favor, and that their heat would be back on by the time they got home. He didn't say a word. He just pushed the plastic T-Rex toward my hand. Leo whispered, "He wants you to have it so you won't be lonely." I tried to refuse, but Toby wouldn't have it. I took the small, cold piece of plastic and tucked it into my pocket, right where the scarf had been. As I watched them get into a taxi I'd called for them, the city didn't look so gray anymore. The snow was still falling and the wind was still blowing, but the ledger in my mind had been burned. I realized that Martha was right. Kindness isn't a reaction to a good world. It is the tool we use to fix a broken one. I walked home, my hand curled around a plastic dinosaur, feeling more like a man than I had in years. I still miss Martha every single day. That hasn't changed. But now when I walk the streets at night, I don't look at the ground. I look for the bright colors, the green of a toy, the yellow of a scarf, the red of a heart that refuses to give up. I kept Toby's dinosaur on my mantelpiece. It's a reminder that even the smallest among us have something to give. If you're reading this and you feel like the world has gone cold, don't wait for the sun to come out. Go out and be the warmth for someone else. You might find that in the process of saving them, you end up saving yourself. Because in the end, the only thing we take with us is the love we chose to give away.